All right, so this is the second part of the series. I realized I skipped a step in my slides that I didn't talk about one pretty important free thing that you will want to get an account for, and that's Discord. Now, there's a lot of controversy about how Discord is being used by some people, even though by other people it's being used in good ways. However you may feel about how other people utilize social media platforms, I can tell you that what I use it for, which is to communicate with my kids' friends and him when he's not here, to be able to do this gaming experience has been nothing short of amazing for something which is 100% free. So Discord essentially gives you the ability to have your own secure space that only you can decide who gets access to that space. They're called servers. So on Discord, there are just thousands of servers that could relate to gaming. So for example, World Anvil, which is a company that actually does a online journaling system for all of your writing to organize your campaigns and your writings into an organized space, they have their own server. D&D Beyond has its own server. This one happens to be mine and allows me to be able to not only have specific sections relating to our prep for our game, which basically is our session 0, which allows me to give them things to do to set up their characters. And, you know, please make an account on D&D Beyond. And here's an article about race and ancestry and culture in role-playing games and how it's changing and evolving, and allows me to give them information in something separate from the actual game. We also have the ability to have information regarding the basic rules of D&D, where I can call that information up directly from D&D Beyond to Discord. There are little pieces of software that go in here that then become usable to exchange information. They're called bots. So in here I have a bot called Avre, and Avre allows me to be able to call up just about anything in D&D from the D&D Beyond website directly into Discord. So if I wanted to call up my character sheet, or I wanted to call up something from D&D Beyond, I can actually do it directly through Avre. There's another one called Groovy, which allows you to be able to import any YouTube video into this as background music. I didn't actually put one together, but I can do it real quick. Let me go grab a link to one of the musics that we play. And again, there's a lot of free music out there. Skyrim is great because all of the soundtracks for that particular game are available on YouTube as videos and then can be played as background music in Discord. So if I go in here and I decide to hit play that, let's see if I have, oh, actually I gotta go into one of my channels. Have to be connected. Oh, there you go. And so now I hear that music playing in the background. Again, didn't have to spend any money, find it on the internet on YouTube, pull the link into here with the Groovy bot, and I have the ability to have basically anything that relates to something on YouTube playing as background music in the right here in the background of my video. There's some battle music there, and it's 10 hours of battle music, so it'll just keep running until I decide for it not to run, or I hit pause and it stops. So the other thing about this is you have the ability to actually connect your video camera. You have the ability to connect your video camera, which it won't let it do it because it's currently being used for OBS. So it won't do it. It'll also allow me to share a screen. And if I decide I want to share a screen that's this particular slideshow, I can share a screen. Or I can share a video of my desktop. Or I can share information about the campaign, or I can share a photograph of a character. All within this system. I think up to 25 people can be in here at the same time. All the people that would normally be in here would be listed, and then you'll add them in and you'll give them permission to see. If people don't want to be on camera, it just shows whatever their avatar is. You don't have to be on camera. You can just talk. And so basically I'm talking now, and it would be able to allow me to be able to hear other people, so we can have a conversation amongst 4 or 5 people without having to show your face. I basically can show my camera, I can show my desktop, I can show the information for the campaign, and we can effectively have an in-person remote game with very little latency between the voices, and it's the same as talking over people in a regular room, and you would have the ability to do that very easily. And again, Discord costs nothing. So when we talk about what it can be, we go back into the slideshow and we go back over to the part that talks about how to be able to use your environment. So this is my desktop. And now this is my desktop. This is the live desktop. Here's me putting my hands up and down. So you're seeing I have a different camera pointed down. If you only have one webcam, you can do that. If you have no webcams, you can use your phone. You can take your phone and you can log in to Discord as a player account on your phone, and you can point your phone at the game board or yourself. So you can do this without having to have a webcam. And you can do, if you have a webcam and you have a phone, then that means you can do a battle map version, which is your phone pointing out. It would show up as a player in the situation, and people would still be able to see it. And again, typically everybody has a phone, so you have at least one camera to do all this with. So on here, let me back up a moment because I had to actually start my video over before. This bottom piece is a Cry-Cut cutting board. And you can get either Cry-Cut or Fiskar or off-brand, it doesn't matter, but a cutting board almost always is going to have a 1-inch grid. And remember what we talked about before, 1 inch or 1 square equals 5 feet. So this by itself, walking into a room and putting this down on a table, can actually be used as a representation of space and representation of a monster and a character fighting each other, or multiples, or what have you. So just that by itself, and if you have someone who does crafts in the house that needs a cutting board, you already own this, you now have a battle map ready to go for your game with measurements and everything. So you know that if you're here and you can only move 5 squares, you can only go as far as there. So that's one thing. Now, if you happen to have a broken picture frame, you could take the glass out of the broken cheap picture frame. Hopefully it's about 8 by 10 or bigger. This one is, let's see, this one's 13 by, this is 10 by 13, so this was probably an 11 by 14 frame. I think it cost me like $7, and the frame got broken in the garage. But now I have a dry erasable surface over top of a dark cutting board, and I can take basically a jumbo, and basically any kind of dry erase marker, and I can now draw this. This is, so you coming down the lane, and you come down, let's see, what did I have on my slide? I'll just read up the slide. You come around the bend and see the trail narrowing between 2 inclined outcroppings of rocks. Ahead of you are 2 dead horses. Here's your cart. Here are the two pack animals that are pulling your cart. I happen to have some minis, so we'll just say that the 2 minis are riding in the back of the cart like this. And here are the 2 dead horses. What do? You're not sure, you're waiting too long. Okay, 3 goblins come out of the bushes over here, 1 with a bow and 2 with swords. What do you do? Roll initiative. Now we begin battle. Just that fast, with a piece of glass out of a frame and a Cry-Cut cutting board. And if you didn't have these, if you didn't have miniatures, you could use a glue stick, you could use a cork, you could use office magnets, whatever you want to use. You could use Legos. Here, I got minifigs. Here. You can use anything you want to sell that visual. Of course, if you decide that you're going to do this for a while and you decide to start investing in miniatures, it works great because a 28 millimeter miniature is sized for a 1-inch grid. So all of these particular guys are specifically sized to be this right grid, and this is already a 1-inch grid, so there you go. It's super effective. And it works fantastic in being able to represent and sell that gaming experience. Now, if you want to go beyond that and you want to have more of an experience and get into actually making terrain, it's really, really not difficult. And it really sells the experience even more than what you see. So let me just show you one piece that I made, which is essentially a tower. And so I have here, kind of hard to see because I have my, there we go. That's fine. I have a tower, so you come across a tower. Now what do you do? And again, this is a shipping tube covered in Dollar Tree $1 white foam board, which then is scored to look like stones, which is then covered with Mod Podge, which is essentially a thinned out PVA glue like Elmer's glue, but better than glue, with some black paint, and then some paint on it and some other pieces. This is also EVA foam. This is also a foam board that's used to make steps. And so the total cost of this, I already had this, and this was 4 feet long, so I have a much bigger one. This is less than 40 cents worth of foam and some paint, which probably cost a couple dollars. The Mod Podge, which I still have the bottle, is about $6. So for about $12, and I still have all the material that I can make more, I now have a piece of terrain that I now have the ability to actually use on camera and use with markers or representations or minis or whatever you have to sell even more realistic experience. So again, a webcam or your phone plus things that you've made or found at Goodwill as a kid's castle toy that you maybe repaint differently. On the screen you see that there is a picture of, let's see if I can find it. There we go. A picture of one of the battle things I did of a full sheet of dollar store foam with some XPS 1/2 inch foam that I bought from Home Depot and cut down, and again made a giant grid. And those are miniatures I bought but never had a chance to paint. They were a couple dollars a piece. And again, I now have this giant tavern that I can use as another playing surface aside from just what I currently have access to now. So it does not require a lot of talent. It just requires a desire to do something really cool for either yourself or for your kids in such a way that you will enjoy playing a game that is essentially a shared storytelling experience. And again, with Discord, they would be able to see, instead of seeing my face, they would see this cam. The screen that's showing the slides right now would be some information about the game, and you would talk back and forth without anybody having to have their face on screen or anything like that. Also on this particular slide, if you see the slide that I have up there, you can see again, buying low-cost supplies for terrains, buildings, set pieces, and tokens is a fun craft project for you and your kids. Anything you make can be shared remotely via webcam, mobile phone. You could take a picture of this, and I could have taken a top-down picture of this board, imported it into Owlbear Rodeo, and used my real terrain as a virtual map in a virtual game, because it's simply just an image that you pulled into that system. This is a great Facebook group that I have online there. Just look up Tabletop Crafters Guild. They're very nice. They're very personable and approachable, and they want you to be successful because this is a fun hobby. Again, Dollar Tree foam are called Ready Board craft paints for about $20. You can probably set yourself with a good starter kit. And keeping an eye out for art supplies, cutting mats, etc., toy castles and buildings. When you're out, can give you an inventory of materials that you have the ability to use over time to do more things with your kids. And this is super exciting for me to share this information with you. It's just the tip of the iceberg. I can tell you, for example, if we go back to here, now that we've shown you how to get set up. So essentially we can go, let's do this. We'll go right back to the beginning of the presentation. And so again, in less than 2 hours, you can do the following. you can make sure that you have a Google account. Number one, make sure you have that. Number two, get a D&D Beyond account. Still haven't spent any money. That should take maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Building a character can take all afternoon, but having the account and having it set up is super quick. Getting a Discord account, again, muchly the same way. If you have your Google account, you can use that Gmail to set up for that. So now that Gmail that doesn't go into your personal life, it doesn't go into your work, it doesn't go into your family. Now it's going to be able to be used for this purpose only. So if you get spammed or anything like that, it's only going to an email that you're only using for that anyways. So you have, I can't do that because that's that. So you can use it for this account, you can use it for that account, you can use it for that account, and then however you want to get, if you don't already have some type of way of being able to cut things out to be able to make stuff, if you never have the ability to do that, you can still find tokens. And let me just show you how quick and easy it is to find tokens. So let's see, we're going to minimize this. I'm going to open my browser and I'm going to type in the word D&D token goblin. Boom. So that was like a half a second, and I now have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tokens that people have made that all can be used in Owlbear Rodeo. You can print them out. Let me show you something real cool that I did. Let's say you want to stay all in person. Perfectly fine. Sounds great to me. You can find these tokens. You can take these tokens like this guy right here. I don't know if I have them in front of me, but you could take that token. You can download that particular token. In Windows, you can go into Windows. Let me see if I can show you how to do this in Windows. Windows has a unique feature that allows you to go into and find a picture. Okay, so let's say I needed a lot of, for some reason I needed a lot of that guy. I don't know why. You right click, you go to print, and a window's going to open. And if you see this window, you go over here and you go all the way down to the contact sheet. Now you're going to make a contact sheet and you're going to go, I want to make 10 of these guys. And automatically it's going to fill out this paper with multiples of the same token. So you fill out, you do that, you print it in color, what have you. You then glue that with a glue stick to foam board, a giant piece of white foam board. You then cut it out individually, and you have that. And you now have a fairly sturdy token for characters from things you don't have to do the drawing yourself. So if you're not a good drawing person, perfect. Again, you cut it out. You say you've got characters. Let's say you don't have minis. You just have this. Okay, so this is one character there in the back, and an ogre, and a hobgoblin, and a goblin boss, and a red brand, and a mimic. You realize there's one of the horses is a mimic. You now have, if you have a printer or access to a printer at the house, you can print these, glue it to foam board, and they'll actually even stand up if you're very careful. But again, it gives you a top-down view of exactly representation of where things are. Just another example of how you can use off-the-shelf stuff, a glue stick, and some foam board, and some paper with a printer to be able to, if you don't, go to FedEx or whatever, Kinko's or whatever I think they're FedEx Kinko's now or what have you, print them off, glue them. I would glue the entire page and then cut them just because it's easier to just glue the whole thing and then cut it. And then you have the ability to make paper minis, and paper minis are very popular, extremely popular to use because they're super easy to make. And there's, basically if I lose one of these, it's a 1-inch square of foam with a piece of paper on it. It's not a $4 or $5 or $6 or $7 mini that has to be painted. So low cost, low expense, low physical effort. What am I trying to say on that? Just easy to do. Gives you the ability to pretty easily find yourself in a position where you are pretty effective quickly, that you could do today, that you could easily do today. And I think on some of these, I had to figure out how to label areas in a castle. Yeah, how to label so I basically just flipped over all these guys and I wrote numbers 1 through 12 on here, and I was able to label a giant drawing that I made of a castle. Sorry. I was able to, I turned over these guys that I have never used yet, and I just labeled them 1 through 12, and I was able to use those as markers to label rooms on a map that I drew, that I put on a webcam, that the kids were able to see live and see their characters live go through because they were able to see it on this webcam. So again, super easy to do. What else was I also trying to give you information on as we were talking about that? Tokens, again, so you now know how to set up a board. If you don't have a cry-cut drawing board like this, if you don't have that, you can just basically get a sheet of paper or butcher paper or tape some paper together and draw your own grid, however you want to do that. There's no barriers to getting involved in this. If you really want to do it, there are no barriers. I don't have an adventure. What do I do? I will tell you that if you Google, there are a lot of people who have really taken to heart this system and have really taken to heart this entire environment and have written things for this environment. And I'll show you how to find one that actually ties into DnD. So DnD starter kit. So DnD starter kit is that guy. So right now you can get this online for $12. And the starter kit essentially gives you a lot of the pieces that you need in order to get started. It's got dice, it's got the book, it's got character sheets, it's got all kinds of cool stuff, and it's got an adventure in it. There are 2 starter kits, the starter kit and the essentials kit. And it looks like on Amazon you can buy this also for $12. And the essentials kit is the same, except it has a different adventure in it with different information and different maps and different stuff in here, which is pretty darn cool. Looks like this one may or may not come with dice. I don't know. I didn't really look to see what it comes with. Let me go down the bottom so you can see. No, it doesn't really say. Inside contains all you need, 1 to 5 adventurers. Regardless, so the essentials kit and the starter kit, geographically, those 2 different adventures are in the same geographical area of Faerun, which is the continent within which much of what D&D does operates. So the reason I tell you that is to tell you this. If you want to buy these, you certainly can. It will give you a lot of information, but I can tell you that you can actually start in the same geographical area with something that somebody else has written for free to give you a taste of the game, to give your characters a chance to figure out how the game works, to do combat, and to role play in such a way that you're kind of getting a taste for and getting your feet wet in the game. So if you Google, and I believe it's called Sacrifice of Innocence. There it is. And so this is what's called homebrew. What does that mean? That means that somebody wrote this adventure and put it online. So let me see if I can find it for you. There it is. Average, this guy right here. So in less than a minute, I was able to find a complete self-contained adventure written for up to 4 first level characters, which you'd be starting out, and it essentially takes you through an adventure in a place within Phandalin, within Faerun. The reason that I would tell you to find this and to use this, 1, it's free. 2, it's free and complete. And it will allow you, if you enjoyed this enough, the place in which you end up and the storyline that you are operating under for this fits directly into both of these campaigns. You could do this module, complete it, and you are at the point geographically where you need to be to actually start doing Lost Mine of Phandelver, which is this one, as well as the Dragon of Icespire Peak, which is this one, because it all ties together. The beauty of D&D is that it is the biggest sandbox there is in literary terms. And what that means is there are so many levels of adventure campaigns happening in so many different places that can interlock to each other very easily, that you don't have to know everything about D&D to be able to enjoy the world that has been created over the last, since the 70s, 40 some years, over 40 years, to enjoy that. And I'm not saying don't buy official content, not at all. I'm saying that today, right now, today, between now and 2 hours from now, if you wanted to sit down and go through all the steps that are in this presentation, you at the end of that, we would be able to invite players to an environment they could see with an adventure that you can understand that's self-contained enough that isn't overwhelming, and you would all be able to learn the game together for free today. There's no better way to do this hobby than to start out learning it without having to. Now, once you get good at it and you want to make yourself some nice minis and have minis done, again, through Hero Forge, they printed their STL files. I found a buddy of mine that I went to school with in high school that has a 3D printer, and he printed these for us, and then we painted them up. These I bought at a store. They were 3 for $6. So they were a couple dollars a piece, and I took some craft paint, 50-cent craft paint from Dollar Tree and some cheap brushes and painted these guys up because it's fun. This guy here, again, is part of a pretty large set that I made for what I'm writing later on, but I knew I didn't want to use it right away because, again, the kids are figuring out how to play. I'm figuring out how to be a DM. Don't be afraid, because there are no real mistakes. Because even if you don't know all the rules the first time you play, it's because it's the first time you play. And then when you realize that if somebody is laying on the ground and you're far away from them trying to shoot them with an arrow, you have disadvantage because they're prone, and that means that you have to roll twice and take the lower number. But if you're standing right next to them, you have advantage because you're standing right next to them and you roll twice and take the higher number. Maybe you didn't know that the first time you played. But the second time when you figure it out, now you'll know. And your game experience will only grow and become deeper and become more immersive the more you internalize the things that you can't ever possibly know the first time you play. And it's okay. If anybody tells you you have to read the player's handbook front to back before you can play this game, don't even listen to them, because it's not the case. You can start playing this game today and start learning how to enjoy this, deciding if you like to enjoy this and the experience as either a player or a DM or both. You can do that today without having come out of pocket, without even having to leave your house. You don't even have to go to the store to buy anything. You can do it in stuff that you have in your house right now, and you can be up and running in a couple hours. That's exciting for me. That's the reason why I wanted to share this video with you in this two-part series. I'm going to do more and show more, maybe show live information about how we actually operate the Discord. If I can get the broadcasting to work, where I can have it up and running in the Facebook page and bring some of you guys into Discord so you can see this environment live. That's what I'm working on next. But I wanted to make sure you got this information out because I promised that I would, and I want to make sure I follow through with that. So I want to thank you for listening to this video, both of them. If you have any comments about things that I didn't mention that you know about, put them in the comments below. Please, please, please subscribe and like this video and subscribe to the channel and click the little bell, because I'm really trying to trade my time and free content for your subscribing to my channel so I can just get a better URL. I need 100. I think I'm at 20 something. I need 100 people before YouTube will let you get a nice URL. That's the next step in my process of being able to share this stuff with the world. So my hope is you'll help me to have that next step so that I can be more effective in providing more of this information. If you didn't like this video, tell me why. If you thought this video could be better in a certain way, tell me why. That's perfectly fine. If you have an idea that I didn't talk about and you want a roundtable with me live on camera and we can talk about stuff and share ideas and bounce ideas off each other, I am all for that. In fact, I'm excited for that. If you're interested in that and you think you want to be someone who puts out content like this and collaborates with people, hit me up in the comments below and send me a message either on Facebook or YouTube, and I'll be happy to get with you, because this is not a club. This is not a secret society. This D&D is the original open source. It is the original open source of open sources, because it is an open world and it is all inclusive, and it allows people from all different races, backgrounds, faiths, creeds, what have you, to be able to have a shared experience in a way that they feel comfortable, in an environment that they have defined as their comfort level, which is super exciting for me. You will find that many, many people, like myself, use D&D to cope with a lot of anxiety in their life. For myself, when I was growing up, my parents had gotten divorced. I had braces and glasses and bad hair, and I was a kid of a divorced parents in the late 70s, which was unheard of. So I was dealing with a lot, and I moved from a tiny town to a bigger school, 800 kids to 3,000 kids, and it was overwhelming. And so I withdrew, and D&D was my safe place. D&D was my safe zone to not feel stressed out about the stress of being around so many kids that I didn't know in a new school, looking goofy with glasses and braces and divorced parents and all of that. So this is a fantastic coping method and environment for those who may be feeling stressed. And certainly in the last year, D&D has just exploded on the planet for that very reason. Just having a space to come in and not deal with all the stuff that's going on out there in the world for just a few hours, it is relaxing, and it is calming, and it is fantastic, and it allows you to just grow as a person when you feel like everything else is standing still. So I encourage you to go through these steps. I will post a link to the slides in the end of the video. In fact, what I'll do is I'll make the slides bigger, and I'll go back through them one more time just so you can see them. And I'll go all the way back through them so you can actually slow down the presentation, and you can be able to see every slide. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. That's why you don't see it right now. Okay, there, now it's bigger. And so now I'm going to show you all the slides at the end of the video so that you can go through and see how you can go through this step by step, what I've put together for you. And again, get yourself a Google account, get yourself a D&D Beyond account, get yourself a Discord account, get yourself a Hero Forge account. If you want software to be able to do drawings and graphics and things like that, great. If you're not that hip on it, as I showed you, there's lots of resources where you don't have to do anything. Get yourself XSplit if you have a webcam, and OBS if you want to record your sessions and record your content. Those are the two best free pieces of software to get. Owlbear Rodeo, totally free. Get yourself an account on it and get to playing. That's all I can say. There's no excuses. There is 95% of the people you meet in this community are very welcoming and open-armed. And it is my hope that you'll make it 95.1%. So from us to you, from you to us, let us get together and let us make life a great big adventure. And for you, get some stuff together, get some pieces together, get some people together, and let's move on to the next adventure.